Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Flame Entertainment and Sports. It's your boy Rob here. I hope everyone's doing good out there. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. Just so you guys know, you could probably tell by the title of the episode. This is going to be strictly a sports-based episode. There will be no entertainment talk, but for my entertainment people, stay tuned. This weekend, we will be dropping an episode where we're going to recap the Season 3 finale of The White Lotus, which occurred this past Sunday. I still haven't been able to watch it yet. As soon as I do, I'm going to put my thoughts together. I'm going to record a little, bonus episode for all the entertainment people out there. And like I said, stay tuned. It'll come out sometime this weekend. Maybe Saturday. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Or maybe a Sunday type of thing. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll be sure to post about it on social media. So yeah, to get back to what this episode is going to be about. So yeah, it's going to be sports-based only because I brought on my boy Jerry, who of course we've had on multiple times here over the years. We had him on Monday here on the show to preview the basketball national championship. And yeah, the reason I'm making it just a sports-based episode this week is because me and Jerry recorded for about, I would say maybe 20 to 30 minutes talking about, the championship game, doing a recap of, Florida defeating Houston. And then we move on and we also recorded for another half an hour, around another 20 to 30 minutes about, the big news out of the NBA on Tuesday where we saw Michael Malone get fired, and we saw Calvin Booth get fired. The head coach and the general manager of the Nuggets just, basically days or weeks, right, before the playoffs begin. And the Denver Nuggets currently have the 4th seed in the NBA. And, we get into some other things as well. A lot of conspiracy theories are going around. For those of you that don't know, a couple weeks ago as well, the Memphis Grizzlies fired their head coach, Taylor Jenkins. So, two of the best coaches in the West, at least. Michael Malone and Calvin Booth led the Nuggets to their first championship in franchise history just a couple seasons ago. And this era of Malone and Booth in Denver was by far the best era that, in franchise history for the Denver Nuggets. And yeah, so basically we get into a lot of detail in the sports world. So I felt like adding in an entertainment portion today would be like kind of an overload, if that makes sense. I didn't want to make it such a long episode. And at the same time, I didn't want to have to cut down mine or Jerry's thoughts because I feel like we put out a lot of nice thoughts, recapping the national championship in basketball and also talking and giving your thoughts on, the Nuggets and a couple of shady things that have gone on, this year in the NBA. And we also, covered Luka. Obviously, that was another polarizing and shady trade that people still don't understand to this day. So, yeah, guys. But like I said, once again, for my entertainment people, make sure to stay tuned because I will be dropping an episode sometime this weekend where I'll be giving my thoughts. I'll be giving you a recap of the Season 3 finale of The White Lotus. It's my favorite show. I mean, not my favorite show, but like it's one of my favorite shows of all time. And, I really enjoy that show. And I thought it'd be really cool to do a little bonus episode and, give my thoughts on that. I'm super excited to watch it. So once again, stay tuned. That should be coming out sometime this weekend, maybe on Saturday or Sunday. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, guys, with all that said, now let's get into this episode as we bring in our boy Jerry. And, we begin by recapping the Florida Gators' big-time national championship victory over the Houston Cougars. All right, guys, just a little side note before we get into this championship game recap with Jerry. We had some technical difficulties within our intro. So that's why you're kind of going to see us just giving our thoughts right away. I decided to cut the intro because, we just had some, technical difficulties. So I just wanted to give a little warning. But now, with all that said, let's get into this national championship game recap. Enjoy. It's your boy Rob here, back on here with Jerry. We released a preview of the national championship. And now we're coming at you to recap the Gators' 65-63 victory over the Houston Cougars to capture their third title in school history. But yeah, Jerry, welcome back, bro. And man, what a game. Let's start off if you want. First off, I don't know, this might be random to start off with, but man,
bro,
basically to me, right, the outcome of this game or how this game went, it was just like, as a Heat, that's the thing. That's why it's random. I'm gonna bring up the Heat, right? But Houston's position right now, right? Like losing that game took me back to a lot of like playoff runs in recent time with the Heat, where we have this elite defense, this grinded out type of team, but offensively, it's really like one guy, and then the rest are kind of hit or miss. So like in terms of Houston, if I was a Houston fan right now, I feel like they're feeling what we've felt before with the Heat, where it's like, damn, we played so damn hard, but we just didn't have enough on the offense side of the ball. But with that said, I'm not taking it away from Florida because um, this wasn't the first time they came back and won in March Madness. They did this time and time again, and they showed that ability to be resilient and to never give up and to stick together. And that's why they're the new champions, right, of the college basketball world. So they very much earned it. Like I was talking about Houston, how they remind me of the Heat. So obviously, I feel for their people and their team and their fans. But at the end of the day, the guts, yeah, and resiliency, like I said, and togetherness that Florida showed, is what made them, champions at the end of the day. So yeah, Jerry, I just wanted to start off with that, man. Just giving some quick thoughts on both teams, like on how I felt about them overall. So yeah, man, I don't know if you want to give overall thoughts or whatever else you want to start with. That happened in this game.
Hey, bro. First of all, I kind of want to say congratulations to both teams. I want to say congratulations to Florida. They had a hell of a season. They played really good this whole tournament. I felt from the beginning, or when I first started watching them, that they were the one team that really could beat Duke. They didn't really have to because it was already done. I think they would have won that game either way. But great resilience, great, like you said, like great togetherness. Like they're really like they're like even tougher than I was expecting. So you know, uh, we gotta I gotta give my hats off to them, and to Houston as well. You were mentioning just now how like they play a lot like that Heat culture type of style, where like they kind of like suffocate offenses and they make you play slow and rugged and like just like basically they force you to play to their style. They force you to play to their level. And this game, I felt like they did the same thing with Florida. Yeah. So to get to how these teams played, I think I want to start off with Florida. You know, they had to really adjust to Houston's stifling defense. They had to play that slug it and thug it kind of that kind of style. They couldn't really run it up and down the court like they've been used to. They did try it a couple of times and it did work like a few times, but they really had to make that adjustment. So I would say good job by Todd Golden on that end. They really couldn't rely on the scoring of Walter Clayton until really the end. I felt like he picked it up more so like at the end of the second half. He really struggled a lot during the majority of the game, but the other players really picked it up. Alex Condon, you know, struggled a bit in the first half, but really picked it up in the second half. Was grabbing a lot more rebounds. Was playing more physical. Wasn't really allowing himself to get bullied. Will Richard, he had a really good first half. He had like 14 points, and then in the second half he didn't really do that much more scoring, but he's still locked in on the defensive side of the floor. He was grabbing, he was getting steals. He was being like kind of like that feisty player. I was and I thought about Rob a lot
I was gonna
when
say, bro, I'm glad you brought that up because yeah, I thought of
when
you
he
because
started
man,
going off.
you're
I'm like, oh yeah,
100% right.
he's definitely
Like I
gonna like
freaking
what he
love
sees.
watching him play, bro. I was even telling my dad like after the game, I felt like he was like the rare bright spot in the first half for Florida. Like everyone else was, struggling. Like you said, even Clayton. Like I mean, brother, Houston got in his head or something in that first half. But Richard was like that one constant that he would, let's say, oh, Houston made a couple baskets in a row, then Richard would just come down and make a three, or he'd make a good play on defense. I felt like he was like the main guy, in my opinion, from start to finish, that really kept this Gator team afloat. So yeah, man, I freaking fell in love with him. I need him on the Heat right now, for real, man. Man, I'll be so happy. You're
Hey,
100% right, bro.
hey, hopefully, we'll see what happens. Yeah, no, definitely plays like a heat culture kind of guy. So it
For
would
sure.
be
You
hopefully
already know.
no, not hopefully. He's definitely watching. Pat Riley was definitely watching. Another guy that that didn't really he wasn't really shooting the ball well, but he kind of picked it up defensively. Elijah Martin. Usually he's a he's a big time scorer for them. Not to the same level as Clayton, but usually he's providing that second scoring option for Florida.
Yeah,
He had to change it up a little bit and lock in on the defensive side of the floor. Chinyalu kind of struggled a lot in the game, but he did kind of. But there were moments in the game where he did kind of pick it up. He wasn't getting bullied in the second half as much as he was in the first half. Um, he did have that one technical foul, which it happens. I felt like I felt like it was I didn't think it was a big deal to
I,
like to call, but
I
the
agree.
rules are the
But
rules. You can't
let me.
really
Yeah, I want to say something
you
about
can't really
that
change it up
whole
just because of an
scenario.
opinion.
Because like first of all, I
And
didn't agree with the foul call. Right, I thought that was a BS call. I didn't think that was a foul whatsoever. But like you said, what he did after the play, like the rules are the rules. So that was the right thing to do to for them to call that tech. But it's just one of those things where your emotions are so all over the place. You want to win the game, and he just got like frustrated at the moment. Obviously, like thankfully he got lucky that ultimately they won the game. Um, but what if like those free throws right from the technical? What if they would have made the difference? That it would have been a whole different story. But yeah, no. Since you brought that up, I wanted to talk about that really quick because yeah, that was just like a weird scenario, man. Because it was a horrible call, but then him slamming the ball like that was the right call.
right, yeah. So LJ yeah, and going back to what you said, you said what if they would have made one of those technical foul free throws, and LJ Cryer was on the free throw line, so he's usually a good shooter. So if he hits if he's on it today like he usually is, what happens?
Literally,
It's a lot closer game. Now they're not shooting a three. Now they're shooting a two. So it's a lot closer.
for
But yeah, Florida, I thought really locked in defensively. You just look at the whole game in general. Not just not just the final possession. They had to basically play the same style as Houston. Yeah, so like when we were talking yesterday, when we were talking yesterday, I did say that I felt Florida was good enough to had enough scrappy players to kind of play that slug it and thug it kind of style that Duke really wasn't able to play.
you did
And hey, it worked out. Condon, really locked in. Will Richard really locked in. Elijah Martin, even Clayton locked in.
yeah,
Clayton not really known for being a defensive prowess, but when he wants to, I think he really can be a good defensive player. And then he showed it in that last possession. He played really good defense on Emmanuel Sharp. Uh, Forced him to think twice before he was going to shoot, and the Condon dives on the floor for the loose ball, and then they win the championship.
literally, man.
Uh, yeah, and as for Houston, I think they did. I thought they executed their game plan as well defensively as well as they possibly could. They really stifled Florida's offense. They forced them to play their style of game. And yeah, as for how Houston played, I felt like they played really good defensively. The game plan was exactly executed the way it needed to be executed. You had to stop Walter Clayton. You had to stop Elijah Martin. You did that. You forced Florida to play your style of play, that slug it and thug it kind of style. And it worked for most of the game. It especially worked in the first half. Florida was struggling to get any kind of offense going. It was only really Will Richard that was kind of playing well. And yeah, you definitely have to yeah you definitely executed exactly how you had to do it. But at the end of the game, it was just unfortunate really. Florida, or for Houston, I mean, Florida kind of came back, they started hitting a bunch of shots. They also tightened up a lot on defensively. I felt like they were grabbing a lot more rebounds in the second half than they did in the first half. even towards the beginning of the second half, you could still see that Houston was out rebounding them, but I really felt like after that, Florida really buckled down, especially defensively, and they did what they had to do, but but I felt like Houston was missing, like you said earlier, and like you said earlier today, I felt like Houston was really missing that um that one more score outside of LJ Cryer. And all the credit goes to Emmanuel Sharp, and like Milos Usman, all those guys played stepped up a lot, but I felt like they were missing another guy who can get you another like 10 or 15, just to kind of like help out the scoring. I didn't think I didn't think they really had that. I felt like they relied a little bit too much on Cryer at the end. I felt and like specifically on that last play, you do want Cryer getting that pass, but once they double teamed him, there was really no one else really was able to help him out. You kind of for Houston, you kind of got you kind of gave the ball to the guy that you wanted to. You also you got the guy, they just couldn't execute it at the end. They got the kick out to Emmanuel Sharp. It was just unfortunate how it ended, but I felt for the most part they executed the game plan exactly how it needed to be executed. It's just that the Florida just played a little bit better today, especially at the end. For the most part, it really wasn't that way. But at the end, when things got really tight, I felt like Florida was just the slightly better team. Not too much better though.
I agree. And I think you said it perfectly, bro. Like especially like you nailed it, but like Houston, yeah. Their game plan ultimately was like literally it was basically perfect. But like you said, unfortunately on the for them on offense they didn't have enough like scoring to go around like you said, and they didn't have that extra guy that could just give you a couple buckets in a row, and get you get a bigger lead. That was the problem, for sure. That was the main issue because yeah, like from start to finish, Houston was like technically in control. But if you really like were watching the game, like and they really felt like they at any point they were really controlling it. And then if you looked at the score, they were never really able to get out to a really like big enough lead, if that makes sense. And kind of at the end of the day, like all credit, I said in the beginning, all credit goes to Florida. They kept fighting and they stayed in the game. Um, but yeah, ultimately though, Houston, it was just they didn't have enough. I think that's like the main thing. At the end of the day, a couple guys I want to talk about. Specifically, this guy, I would say in the first half, he really stood out. In the second half, he was fine, but he wasn't as good. Jawan Roberts, the big man or undersized big man from Houston. He's 6'8". He's going up against like these 6'11" guys in Florida, and to me, at least in the first half, to me, he actually absolutely dominated those guys. And yeah, I'm talking about Alex Condon, and then okay, what's the other guy? Bao, I think.
Thomas Hogg.
Thomas Bao. Okay, that's how you say it. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
so personally, in the first half, both of those guys, man, they very much like frustrated me because I'm like, you guys are like the two tallest guys here. You're so long and athletic. I saw them like being way too soft. Like they didn't look like big men to me. Like obviously no, they looked like big men, but they didn't play like big men. If that made sense. And then like I said, Jawan Roberts is 6'8". In the NBA, what he'll be like a small forward, power forward, like size wise, and he was like just eating up these guys. But I think he was just playing harder than them. But then ultimately, as you said about the Gators in general, like specifically with those guys too, in the second half, they're able to turn their games around. The two bigs there for Florida, and I thought that really made a difference. And when I posted like our halftime like update video, something I talked about, I called out those two guys specifically, and I kind of mentioned though like I called them out, but I also mentioned that it was only minor adjustments in my opinion, right? That Florida really needed to like come back and win the game, and I think that's ultimately what happened. Like obviously, it's not just those two guys; it's the coaching staff adjusted, the rest of the team stepped up, but those two guys specifically were who I had my eyes on the whole first half because they're really frustrating me. I felt like they were beating themselves, and those two guys were two of the biggest reasons. But like I said, congratulations to those two guys because they very much kept fighting and they came back in the second half. And this might be kind of random to a lot of people. Okay, so I wrote this down. 12 minutes and 6 seconds, right, left into the game. I'm sure some of you guys remember this transition. Wait, what's the guy's name again? How he said? How?
Yeah. He,
Okay,
Thomas Hogg. Yeah.
okay. Remember he got like a nice block, and then it led to a crazy like transition layup that he did.
Yeah.
I wrote that down on my phone. I put game change at 12:06 when he got that block and it led to like an acrobatic fast break layup. In my opinion, that play specifically, I just felt like the whole momentum changed, and to me that was the first point in the game where I was like, oh crap, I think like Florida could actually come back. Um, and look, ultimately, what they won by 2 points, so who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe those were super impactful at the end of the day. So I know that was kind of random, but I wrote it down in my notes at the moment, and then obviously with how the game like finished, I thought I would mention it on here. You feel me?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Like around that time, that's where the whole momentum of the game just shifted completely. I think it was him and Will Richard were on that were in that play. And then I think they got the steal on I forgot who it was.
It was
Yeah,
it.
I can't remember who they got the steal on, but
Yeah, I forgot who it was on.
yeah, but but then they got like that fast break and then they were able to get that and one.
Yeah.
That's like I agree with you 100%. Like that's really where like everything changed for them. And I
First,
really felt like that's when they started playing a lot harder. Because like even in the beginning of the second half, I felt like Houston extended their lead by a lot. I think they went on like a 9-0 run at
yeah,
one point. And then the play before that transition play, I think it was I'm not sure if it was Elijah Martin or if it was Denzel Aberdeen. I think it was Elijah Martin that hit a three. So he hit that three, and then they get that stop on defense that leads to or they get the turnover that leads to the fast break to the fast break and one. And I feel like that's really like you said, bro. That's where everything just changed for Florida.
isn't it crazy? Like you said it perfectly. Like how like right every shot mattered in this game. Like literally with that outcome, especially like a 2 point win. But yeah, since we're talking about like fast break, really quick. Wow, what the heck? This is mind blowing, bro. Those were the only points of the game for the Gators off of a fast break. Wow,
Interesting. Yeah.
they had two fast break points and Houston had four. Wow,
Oh.
that's unbelievable. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah. Especially a team that lives off the fast break,
Literally,
like
and you
Florida.
like Florida in the first half. That's another thing you called on the preview. They had a crap load of turnovers in the first half, and that's something
Yeah.
you mentioned that they're a team that tends to like, they have like their moments where they just keep turning over the ball. But
Yeah.
man, that is mind blowing. So two fast break points for Florida and four for Houston. Wow.
Yeah. And I felt like Houston didn't capitalize enough on those turnovers because Florida was committing them a lot and frequently.
Yes.
But like once they stopped, you really didn't have like the opportunity to continue and to continue. You didn't really have the chance to like cash in on those mistakes. So I felt like that's one thing they could have done a little bit better.
I
And
agree. I
yeah,
agree. Especially at halftime, like what was it, a 3 point game? And like, man, if Houston really like took advantage, in my opinion, they should have been up maybe like by 12 to 15 points, like minimum. If they
I
really took
agree.
advantage of all the freaking turnovers, you feel me? Like,
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I mean, they were dominating everywhere. I mean, I think at halftime they had like 6 offensive rebounds to Florida's 4.
yeah,
But if I'm being honest, like it felt like they had 10 offensive rebounds.
it did.
Yeah, it really did. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I was looking at the final at like the box score, and they took like 16 more shots than Florida. Like they
Wow,
had 16 more field goal attempts. Like,
that makes it like burn you even more. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, because it's like, because they had like so many opportunities. It's like, you know, you just gotta cash in just a couple more times, and and you're good. But they should they. But I really felt they needed to shoot a lot better. I felt their defense was exactly as it needed to be, but their shooting needed a lot of work. And
for sure.
but if I'm being honest, there could be a couple of guys there that we might see in the NBA. Maybe fight for the 15th spot in a roster or the last spot in a roster. You know,
Yeah,
definitely we'll definitely see a few hard workers there.
for sure.
Try to make a team, and who knows? Who
For,
knows? I feel like it's not really the end for most of these guys. You did mention Jawan Roberts earlier today. I felt he played with a lot of heart. I felt he played with a lot of grit. Another guy, Lugler, I thought he also played with a with a lot of heart. Unfortunately, he fouled out like towards the end of the game.
I'm so
But
glad you brought him up. I'm sorry. I love them too. So yeah,
yeah, definitely, bro. Like he played well. He's definitely gonna be another guy that's gonna um fight for an NBA roster.
that's crazy. I just saw he's a freshman.
Oh.
Ugly. A freshman, man. Wow. That is crazy. Okay.
So he doesn't exactly have to
Hey, doesn't have to
he
leave
doesn't
yet.
have to come out. Yeah. Yeah, he has time.
Wow. That's even more impressive than he's
Yeah.
a freshman, like giving that effort in a championship game. Wow.
Yeah,
I'm so
definitely.
glad you brought him up because I feel like he'll kind of go unnoticed. But man, I really enjoyed watching him too. And another guy, and he came out of nowhere to me in the second half. I don't even know if he did much in the first half. Malik Wilson for Houston, number 8. He's what is oh he's a graduate. Okay, so he might be leaving, but I thought he provided a great like boost there. Actually, towards the end, he scored a couple of points there, and he kind of helped Houston stay in the game there at the end. So yeah, shout out to him as well. But it's funny, right? In a game like this, like obviously, ultimately, there's a winner and there's a loser. But in a game like this, man, like honestly, I respect all these guys. Like both of these teams, man. Like the Houston shouldn't be down on themselves for anything. Because man, all these guys, honestly, they all gave it their all, and nah, it's funny. Like literally, the Gators won, and look, we're shouting out all these like role players, right, from Houston, because it was just one of those games that like ultimately, obviously someone has to win, but like regardless, man, both teams played like champions, in my opinion.
I agree. I couldn't agree more with you actually.
Man, I honestly like the basketball. Like you called it in the preview. Like I literally, bro, watching Houston. Yeah, I said it already, but it felt like I was watching the Heat, and man, like even when like obviously at the end of the game, okay, obviously I'm happy, right, for Florida, for our boy Paul, for his family. They must, they are super happy right now, and it's amazing. So I have that part of me that I'm like, all right, man, I'm happy, that they're gonna enjoy this big moment. But then at the same time, Houston reminded me so much of the Heat that also like when the game ended, I also had like the sadness as well because it felt like it just took me back to those days in the playoffs where we're like, all right, we made it far and we are a freaking underdog, right? That made it to the top, but ultimately we didn't like fully prevail, right? So yeah, man, it's like mixed emotions. You feel me?
Yeah, 100%. They also reminded me of that same like mentality that we have. That whole like heat culture type of that whole like mindset that we have. It's like they have it too.
Yeah, bro. So seeing that and like the way they played, I was like, it just kept taking me back to yeah. So at the end too, like for them, I honestly like I truly like felt for them. But I was like, man, that's my freaking style of basketball that I freaking love.
Yeah.
Uh, and then I'm not gonna lie to this is something I haven't said. Like ultimately, am I shocked the Gators stayed in the game and won? No, but there was like some points in the game for me personally where I felt like okay maybe Florida's gonna tie the game or take the lead, but at a lot of points I felt that like for some reason in the end they would choke because I was just in the first half specifically. I mentioned already a couple of the guys right were playing with low IQ. I didn't like it. I didn't like the low IQ, the softness, and then you also described like shout out to Coach Golden by the way, right? 39 years old. Congrats to him. He's a champion. But you're super right. Like he screams, and I like that. Like to a certain extent, I like when you're passionate or whatever. But now when it's like 24/7, and I feel like in the first half a little bit, he kind of overdid it, and then you remember it even led to a technical. 'Cause remember the whole assistant staff like jumped off the bench for some reason, and I was just
Yeah.
like, man, what are you guys doing right now? Like the majority of you guys are struggling, right? They're all obviously frustrated. Now you guys are gonna be here friggin' acting like clowns, screaming at the refs. So there was just a couple aspects that I saw in Florida where I was kind of just like, damn, but it's kind of shady. I don't know if they're actually gonna be able to do this, but hey, once again, congrats to them and all the credit in the world to them because ultimately they pulled through and they overcame the mistakes they were originally making. They were able to adjust and specifically mentally. That's what I'm most impressed by. Like they showed their mental toughness, the coaches and the players. So
Yeah. Yeah, I get you.
you get me? I was just like, I know I might have been random, but it was just like these random feelings I had during the game. You know?
Nah, I understand. I understand what you're talking about. And it kind of like rubbed off on some of the players to a certain degree. But I felt, but like you said, they kind of pulled through and they kind of like, like they showed that kind of like resilience.
Yeah, man. You know, so at the end of the day,
Yeah.
whatever, you gotta respect it, and they proved me wrong, like 100%. It's not that like I'm like, oh, they're gonna get killed, no. But there's just something in me, that I was just like, honestly, I was annoyed because it was like, bro, you guys are beating yourselves. You're obviously way more talented than these people. You have way more size, and you're literally doing these stupid like mental mistakes. And a lot of you guys are veterans as well. Like even Condon, for the veteran that he is, man, the way he played in that first half to me, I was like, this guy just like come from high school yesterday. Um,
Right.
honestly, I just get like really picky with that stuff. And as always, because it goes back to the Heat, I watch every basketball game like with that mindset. That's what I expect. Like I expect I just expect guys that play smart and play hard ultimately. So when I'm seeing those little boneheaded mistakes, I'm like, bro, come on. So yeah, maybe I judge basketball players too hard. Maybe I take it to a certain extent, but yeah, man, I don't know.
Nah, I get you. I think he did have like specifically Condon, he had like two turnovers that I felt like he didn't really that were kind of like boneheaded, like you said. No, he could have played a little bit smarter. I thought Clayton had like three or four turnovers that game.
Yeah,
Some most of them weren't really like most of them were like pretty much unforced.
yeah.
He did have this one pass that was like a pass to assist where
Mhm.
he passed it to I think it was Hog. I think he passed it to him and then he threw it out to Will Richard for a three.
Yeah.
But it was like it was a really tight pass like that easily could have been stolen. So I felt like he was also like turning the ball. He was also like putting the ball in danger a lot, you know. And yeah, they were I felt like they were making like a bunch of like mental mistakes, especially like in that first half. And even at points in that beginning of that second half.
For sure. Something I want to bring up because you mentioned Clayton, right? I thought you were gonna talk about another play. You remember, like towards the end, it was oh yeah, well, it was the Gators' final possession, right? When they got fouled or whatever. You remember Clayton made like a super questionable pass there, and somehow who was the one that caught it? Who's the guy that shot the final free throws for the Gators?
Aberdeen, I think it was.
Okay, Aberdeen. I don't know if you remember that play. Like Clayton, man, he did like man, he was like almost. I think he was trying to pass half court or something, and then he kind of did like a crazy pass, man. That
Oh, I remember that play.
remember that I don't know. To me, man, if the outcome was different, I feel like people would have looked at that play because, and I'm not trying to call out Clayton, like, but like, man, that was super scary, and somehow I don't know how the hell Aberdeen came and caught it because even they showed the
Yeah.
replay. He was really like a foot away from stepping on the line. Like literally, he got fouled and then he stepped on the line right away.
Right.
It was really like a matter of like inches basically, and who knows, we might have had like a different outcome if that becomes a turnover, and then Houston's able to like get the ball, and they did have one timeout still. So who knows what could have happened? Obviously, there's a bunch of plays that we could look back on, but I feel like that one was like super critical because it was specifically at the end. You feel me?
Yeah, I remember.
Bro, that play, I was like, oh wow. When he threw that pass, I was like, I thought it was going out of bounds for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was too for like a little bit.
And then it's funny, I had to see the replay. Cause at first I was like, wait, where's the foul? But then obviously they showed the replay and it was an obvious foul. But at first, I guess too, like in games like that, I get like so like my emotions are going insane. So then
Yeah.
when I see like a small foul, I kind of like maybe I get too emotional. I'm like I gotta see the replay, because I'm like it's a freaking championship. But it was obviously the guy like fouled him like intentionally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just during those like high tension game. I don't know. It's just like extra crazy my nerves.
Nah, I get you. So yeah, another thing I want to mention about Clayton, I felt like in the first half he was more of a distributor rather than a scorer. I think there was one point in the game where he had like one field goal attempt. I think it was like in the second half or like deep in the first half. He only had like one attempt. He had a lot of assists that game. I think he ended up with like 7 or 8 assists. And so yeah, I think that's a lot of credit to Houston's defense that that were able that they were able to kind of like not shut him down, but kind of like change his style up a little bit. So I felt like that was a really good. I thought that was a really good adjustment by Kelvin Sampson.
I agree, man. No, I'm glad you brought up that point. Yeah, no, honestly, like Samson and the coaching staff, they deserve a lot of credit, man. I think they did all they could to give their guys the best possible chance, right, to win. But yeah, Clayton though, man, something I loved about him was obviously, it was a struggle majority of the game. He's been, the best player, right, in March Madness basically, and the fact that he was able to step up, at the end for his team, like he's done time and time again. It was nice to see, man, because obviously I've been hearing about this guy. You talked so like highly about him too in the preview that I was like inside of me. I felt bad for him during the game. I was like, man, I really want this guy to to have his moment because he deserves it. Ultimately, like the Gators wouldn't be anywhere near there. Obviously, it's a team game, but they wouldn't be anywhere near the championship without him. So I was really happy for him, honestly. Like just like as a human thing, it was just like, man, this poor guy, like he's been so damn good. And now in the freaking biggest game, he's having like an off night, but hey, he came through and showed why everyone loves him, why every NBA fan wants him on their team next season. And no, yeah, what he showed tonight, like I would love to have him on the Heat. It's funny. I'm like the type of like I've said this multiple times. I'm like maybe old school, but I'd rather have a guy who doesn't give up and and keeps on fighting for the team over a guy who like, oh, maybe early in the game you have a 20-point first half and then in the second half you're basically like wasting a spot on the court. And I feel the rare ones are the ones like this who continue to fight, never give up. And look, that's what he showed tonight. So I loved it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love the fight and to like continue and just like keep going at it. And ultimately they got the win. Ultimately, I agree with like everything you said right there. But like ultimately, we got to give both of these teams credit, and we're definitely gonna see some of the like at least maybe like two or three of these guys in the league at some point.
Yeah, man.
And
No,
so
there's definitely a couple of guys on each team that I'm like intrigued by.
yeah, definitely.
So, but yeah, man. Do you have any other thoughts, man, on this game?
Nah, I mean, I think we covered everything we needed to cover.
Nah, I agree, man. Nah, yeah, once again, shout out to other Gators and to our boy Paul. He sent us, a super cool selfie celebrating with a cigar. So I'm glad he's like enjoying this moment. So yeah, congrats to all of them, all of Gator Nation. And you guys are the champions, right? The college basketball world. So enjoy every second of it. Because yeah, we all want our teams to win the championship. That's to me the best feeling in all of sports when your team like captures the title. There's nothing like it. So I could only imagine like all the emotions and everything they're feeling right now. It's a moment they'll never forget for the rest of their lives. You feel me? So yeah. But Jerry, once again, bro, thanks for joining us again. You joined us for the preview of this game. You got us excited and you nailed everything, by the way. You described both teams perfectly. Like, literally, what you described is exactly what I watched in both teams. And yeah, man, so you did a great job. And thanks again for coming on this recap, bro.
Nah, thanks for having me on, bro.
For sure, man. But yeah, guys, with all that said, make sure to keep up with us on Instagram and TikTok at the flame_ES. All right, guys. So for the next topic in the sports section of today's episode, me and Jerry are gonna get into the shocking news in the NBA on Tuesday, where we saw the Denver Nuggets fire head coach Michael Malone and general manager Calvin Booth. The Nuggets currently sit at the fourth seed in the West, and we are just weeks away from the playoffs. And now we have two coaches who have been fired within the last couple of weeks who are leading playoff teams. First, it was Taylor Jenkins of Memphis, and now Michael Malone of Denver. But yeah, we're going to be talking, give you our thoughts on this. I'll start off really quick on my thoughts. So overall, Jerry sent me the news earlier, and I was just like in complete shock, and I still am right now as we record this. And I don't know how much I have to say on it because I feel, yeah, it's just shocking. I'm just shocked. My first reaction when I saw it though was shocked, but then it was like, all right, there has to be like something behind this that maybe went on behind the scenes that we don't know about. And then I see, the general manager is fired as well. And I'm like, man, if something really happened behind the scenes, it has to be a huge deal because, for a head coach and GM of the fourth seed in the West to get fired, a head coach and GM who recently won, right, a championship, and head coach and GM who have led the best era in Denver Nuggets history, like period. For them to get fired like this, I feel like there has to be something behind it. And initially, I was thinking, maybe they're part of some scandal. God willing, I didn't want it to be true, but there was so many thoughts in my head. I was like, hey, maybe there's some sexual harassment case. Maybe they covered up something for someone, and it's coming out now, and Denver's trying to save face and put them as scapegoats. But now too, as time's gone on, as I've talked to Jerry throughout the day and had different thoughts in my head about this whole situation, I'm like, could it be something from the NBA themselves as well? That went down under the table that we don't know about. So yeah, honestly, I'm just thinking there has to be something behind this, man. Because if not, I mean, I'm kind of at a loss for words, bro. What do you think?
Yeah, honestly, this makes no sense if you're looking at it from a basketball perspective, purely from a basketball perspective. I mean, you just won the championship, what, 2 years ago? You're a contender. You've been a contender for the last 3, 4 years. You know, like you said, Michael Malone has led them to the best era in the history of their franchise. I don't think they've ever made a conference finals before he got there.
Wow.
Actually, no, they did. They did. They did when they had Carmelo Anthony, but that was it.
Okay.
Okay, maybe I think maybe one time when they had Mutombo. I'm not that I can't be too sure, but they never made that NBA finals for sure.
No. Yeah.
So for them to kind of like fire him at this point of the season, just like 3 days before, maybe they're 3 days before they try to go back to the finals or they start their
Yeah, like their jersey.
start their postseason, like
Yeah.
it's just kind of strange. It just doesn't make any sense. But I don't know, like it's you know again, like I said, from a basketball perspective, this makes no sense. So it can't be a basketball decision at all. Like there's just no way. Something had to have gone on within the organization, or I. But like I mean, what could have possibly gone on? There's no there's no reports. We've gone through what, it's been like a couple hours since the firing happened. There's no rumors. There's nothing. We don't have any idea what happened.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay,
I've seen
what's
like
what's
rumblings. There's like headlines and stuff, but to me, in my opinion, the headlines we're gonna see right away, in my opinion, could be a cover up from one of the parties involved. Because to me, we're gonna have to really wait for like the truth to really come out. In my opinion, you know what I'm saying? I feel
if it comes
whatever
out?
comes out now is kind of like fluff and not like 100% accurate.
Yeah, that's if it comes out too.
Yeah. No, that's the biggest. If is the biggest word there.
Yeah, because like I don't know. There's just no way. there's just no way this makes any sense. So like the only way it can be, the only way like this makes sense is if like maybe Michael Malone did something crazy behind the scenes, or like, or something, or their relationship between Calvin Booth, Michael Malone, and then the ownership in Denver just went bad really fast. Like it had to have happened really fast because like bro, last year they were making their title defense, and okay, whatever, they lost to, and they lost to Minnesota. Okay, that happens.
Yeah,
You weren't really expecting to lose that series. Fine. Most teams don't really make in recent NBA his memory. Most teams don't make a lot of uh,
yeah,
successful title defenses. The last team to do it was Golden State, and then before that was Miami.
literally.
So it was like,
It's so rare.
yeah, no, it's a lot more rare than we'd expect. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean you give up on your coach. So we don't know what happened. I do know that the ownership in Denver is Stan Kroenke, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
I know it's Kroenke.
okay.
So I think it was this, and I believe it's the same ownership that goes with Arsenal FC,
Oh wow,
the soccer team from England. And I do remember hearing Arsenal fans complaining a lot about Stan Kroenke. So
damn.
maybe there's something
Thanks for giving
maybe
me
there's
some
something
info.
going on.
I had no idea. Like, thank you.
Yeah, no, actually no. Let me make sure because I don't want to be wrong. I mean, you know,
Nah, you're good, but nah, I'm glad. Obviously, you know some soccer. Like, I don't keep up with it, so I'm glad you kind of, have that info for us.
no, of course, bro. Because bro, I would literally remember hearing Arsenal fans going off on this guy. Like he's also the same guy for the.
Oh,
No, no, no. I think he is. I think it is Stan Kroenke.
yeah. Look, I have it here. Like it says, um, okay, Stan Kroenke owns it's like a company. He owns Kroenke Sports and Entertainment. They own the oh yeah,
The
Arsenal,
Rams.
the LA Rams, Nuggets, and the Colorado Avalanche.
Oh
Uh,
snap!
wow, so they're in all these leagues. Yeah, all they're missing. Yeah, Major League Baseball. But
Yeah, man.
well, wow, that's bro. No, honestly, thanks for bringing that up. I had no clue. But hey, if you say like the Arsenal fans that complain, like man, who knows if this guy's doing some shady business, under the
Yeah,
table.
yeah. No, bro. I mean, they always complain about something. Like soccer fans are always complaining about something, but bro, these guys were going fucking hardcore. I remember when the Rams were in the Super Bowl. It was against It was when they were playing New England.
Oh,
They
okay.
were like, I hope. They're like, I hope this guy. I hope the LA Rams lose their Super Bowl final.
My gosh, that's amazing. I was like, that was freaking awesome. That language.
No, bro, those guys are fucking hardcore as shit. But bro, I don't understand 100%, bro.
Of
Like,
course. Nah, of
bro,
course, we're passionate, man, frustrated as fans.
bro, like their teams were, bro, like they were going through like a rough period, and it was like their fans were like really frustrated. They wouldn't fix anything in their team. Like they would keep the same coach. Actually, I mean, that coach did have a really good career, but it
Gotcha.
was like they kept him, and it's like they kept him around, but they wouldn't like support. It's like they would support him, but they would like half-ass it though.
Okay, so not like full. They weren't fully in. Eh?
Yeah, no, it was kind of fucked.
Nah, that sucks, man. I feel like that's too much of a not the majority of teams, right? But around sports in general, man, it's kind of like a reoccurring thing where the ownership's not really giving out the resources, to the coaches or GMs, and then somehow the coaches and GMs end up being scapegoats a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, bro, and that coach was like a legendary coach for them.
oh wow.
He had been there for like almost 20 years,
Oh
and then they
damn.
just fired him. Or no, they didn't fire him. The fans got like so frustrated, they wanted him out because like he was basically the scapegoat. And
Dude,
then eventually they got him out.
that's
And
terrible.
and they're playing a lot better nowadays, but like it's like but they still haven't won the title. So it's like, and it's like, damn, like.
Nah,
So it's like, okay, it really wasn't his fault, and it's not really the new coach's fault either. It's like, it's just tough to win a Premier League title
not for
when
sure.
you have like, yeah, when you're going up against Man City and then Liverpool, who are
Gotcha.
just like, yeah,
Nah, yeah, man. But I know there's something else, right? I think people would like to hear this that you kind of want to get into, involving Malone and some other big thing that happened back in February, right? In the NBA.
the okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Okay, bet. Yeah, so yeah, so I know Arsenal fans were really frustrated when it came to the ownership of Stan Kroenke. They weren't really too happy. I remember watching Arsenal fan TV for like when I was in high school, and then hearing them talk about like how much they really hated him, how much like he really frustrated them. I feel like a lot of that has kind of like died down, but it still brings back memories of like what how they felt about ownership, and then just seeing like how the same ownership is now in Denver, or not now. It's been in Denver for a while, but like it's the same ownership that like kind of fell apart with or like fell off with Mike Malone and then Calvin Booth. It's a bit suspicious there, but but I think I kind of want to get into one more thing. It kind of has to do with this, but it kind of doesn't. It's I feel like the real reason. Now, this could just be my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look,
Yeah.
thank God he said that. Look, what we're gonna talk about it's all alleged, for entertainment purposes only. So like people know, a lot of like people I watch content creators that talk about rumors, right, in the celebrity world. I didn't know this, but I've learned from them. They do this in other videos because that prevents you from being sued. So
Yeah.
yeah, this is all
Oh
alleged
yeah.
for entertainment purposes only.
Yeah, I was gonna say allegedly, so that way I wouldn't get so we wouldn't
There we
get
go.
sued.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to like explain to the people just in case for anyone who doesn't know about that. But yeah, now, sorry, what I have to say now is get your popcorn ready. Let's go.
Okay.
Serve it up. Let's go.
So I feel like the alleged reason why Mike Malone, alleged by me, not by anyone else, the alleged reason why
Like
Mike
flame
Malone and
entertainment and
Calvin,
sports. Let's go.
why why Calvin Booth and Stan Kroenke, Calvin Booth and Michael Malone were fired was, I feel like the league wants an LA Boston finals. Yeah, we haven't had one in 15 years, and before that we hadn't had that one in 20 years. So it was like, oh, okay, it's time to get another one. The ratings are down. It's the perfect time.
Ugh,
It's
makes you want to barf as a
I
pyrite
get
nut like a fanatic and heat guy. It makes you want to barf. But
yeah
I believe it. So, but keep going. My bad. I had to ask.
yeah nah, I get you, bro, because it's like, okay, bro, like what are the odds that so many things are going, like so many bad things that are going on around the league are like favoring the Lakers, right? Or especially specifically in the West, right? Like first we had the Luka trade, right? You know, Dallas is, obviously a contender. You get rid of Luka, you throw in AD, you have an injury prone team, you get rid of a contender there, and you improve your team by a lot. Okay, that was really weird because it's like, okay, the initial report was, okay, it manifested in the dark. Okay, so are you telling me that you're admitting that you did some shady stuff allegedly?
In the dark under the
It's
table.
like
Yeah.
it's like and why specifically in the dark? Like why did Shams report that this was in the dark? Why didn't he just say like, "Oh, breaking news, this happened." That's it. You know,
It's so true.
they just talked and just reported, "Oh, okay, they just talked and, they That's it. They talked, they came to an agreement, and we just found out now. Why did he have to say, "Oh, this manifested in the dark"? I don't really understand that. Doesn't really make sense to me. And then we get into the next one. I mean, not no. Actually, no, I want to continue this one because it's like, okay, they didn't even have to give up Austin Reeves, who's having a career year. They didn't have to give up Dalton Connect, a really good shooter, a really good asset to any team. They were gonna trade him for another asset later on, but that's trading an asset for another asset. It's not like trading multiple assets for one asset. It's a completely different story. So that's a little weird. Okay, that's one thing. That's one thing. Okay, next we get the Memphis Grizzlies firing Taylor Jenkins.
Why?
Why?
He's probably
Why
the best coach
exactly?
I've seen there in my lifetime.
Yeah, it's like, okay, why exactly are they doing that? I mean, they're making a good playoff run. They have what, a month left. You can't do this after the season ends. That's a little weird. That's another contender to the Lakers.
Mm.
And then we get to the lot to what happened just recently. Michael Malone getting fired, and Calvin Booth getting fired. I mean, I don't know why Calvin Booth too, but definitely Michael Malone. It's like, why right before the playoffs? Why would you fire a Hall of Fame caliber coach right now? It's like, doesn't make any sense.
At all.
It
It's like,
doesn't.
yeah, it's mind blowing. You don't
Yeah, yeah. It just doesn't make sense to me. And it's like right before the playoffs,
yeah. Yeah, no, the
and this is
timing
the
is like
team.
perfect for the Lakers, right? Like perfect
Yeah,
timing.
and it's the team that they struggled against the most these last couple of years. Honestly, I don't think they need to fire Mike Malone for the Lakers to win. But why? But why? But why does that have to happen?
Yeah,
It's like what? But
I love what you said. Like those are two valid points. Cause it's Denver, but also Memphis. That you just mentioned as well. It's like two teams
yeah,
that are literally right there, and yeah, I don't know.
yeah, it just makes it's just so weird how like it all happens. It's like, it's not even that, like, oh, okay, they go into the off season, or you fire him January, February, you fire him April, March. This is the latest head coaching firing since, I think, Hubie Brown in 1981,
Yeah,
and the Hawks were like 31-48. They were basically out of the playoffs. They were 17 games below 500. Okay, okay, that doesn't.
yeah.
Okay, who cares? Who cares if that happens? But this is a championship contender firing their head coach right before the playoffs start. It's like, bro, you don't do that.
So my head, like
Like,
it's
I don't.
so damn fishy. It's like yeah,
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. So it's like, why, why do all this? Well, I mean, you know, it's basically, I feel like, allegedly, it's to boost the ratings. The ratings are down. You kind of gotta help. You gotta bring it up somehow.
yeah. Maybe they're like in a panic. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. So it's like, and it's like, okay, well, now that this has happened, who's gonna be the who's gonna be the team that can compete with the Lakers? You basically have Memphis and Denver in disarray
Hmm.
with interim head coaches, and then that leaves you with what? And Phoenix is out of the. Oh, sorry. Phoenix is out of the playoffs.
Yeah,
Dallas is decimated. Well,
that's a
not
young
decimated.
team.
They're in the play-in. Sorry.
Uh, and you know, the
Um,
Rockets
it's
are inexperienced.
and yeah, Houston and OKC. They're they're really young and they're inexperienced. I think OKC might have the best chance, but it's like, okay, Shea is really the only player there that has any bit of experience, and he's really been to like what, 2, 3 playoffs,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not like you
maybe
with much
4.
experience. Yeah,
Yeah, no, he doesn't have like that much experience. He needs a lot more. But then guys like Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort, there's not that much championship experience. Yeah, they were there for the yes, Lou Dort was there for the bubble, but
Yeah,
it wasn't. There's not that much experience. There's way more experience between LeBron and Luka. They've been to the finals. They've led their teams on incredible runs, and it's nothing to take away from those guys, or even the job that the the that JJ Redick has done, who I think has actually done a very good job. But it's like, how much more help do you need? Like I feel like you, like I feel like you are getting what you need, and it's like, bro, what? But then if we go over to Boston on the East, it's like, okay, there's not really much many teams that can really compete there. You got the Knicks, sure, but they struggle against contenders. You got Cleveland, who, yeah, they have a good roster, they have a good squad, but I feel like it's not quite talented enough to go up against Boston. Miami, we just traded Jimmy Butler. We have a solid roster, but I don't think it's ready yet to compete for a championship. Then you have Indiana, who might be like the dark horse. It's like, it's a wild card. They're a wild card. Last year they made it to the conference finals, and then this year it's like, yeah, I mean, you still have the same squad, but we don't really know what's gonna happen. And then you have Detroit, who's just rising, and it's like, they're inexperienced. So who's really gonna be that team other than Cleveland? Maybe Miami, they can, if we can figure it out. Um,
let's go. I hope.
or
I hope so.
or what was the other team? New York. Really, I just don't know. I just don't know who can who can really do that, because like the East is kind of, I just don't know. I just don't know. So it's like, okay, they don't really need that much help. So it's like, okay, perfect. It's the perfect pathway for an LA Boston um, finals, and it's like, okay, sure, it's nice to see that these two historic franchises going up against each other, but it's like, I don't want to see it in this fashion, because it's like, it kind of ruins the game. It kind of ruins the experience a little bit when you see so many weird things happening and they favor this kind of matchup. I mean, I thought already, like, even like after the Luka trade, right? I was like, oh, okay, I felt like this was realistic either way. Like, I thought this was a realistic finals, like a finals prediction. But now it's like, okay, you're you're handcuffing so many teams in the West. It's like, how how do you expect me not to find this a little suspicious? I don't know.
Nah, bro. You laid out like so many freaking great points. Um, I love that you've laid out like multiple points, because I feel like this really like makes people intrigued, and this guy isn't just like making stuff up, or he only has one, right, one example. Like you're stating so many different examples that like, um yeah, I feel like even for the people that don't believe in this stuff ever, like conspiracy theories, like they're even gonna be open to like hearing this, and they're gonna be like, damn, this guy, like you have a great argument. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it sucks, because like being a kid, or like when I was a kid, I would hear conspiracy theories, like, okay, some here, you would hear some here and there, and it's like, oh, okay, but you're not gonna think like they're gonna fix a whole championship. It's like, it'd be like, oh, okay, he got one player here, he got one player there, or that other team got that player. It's like, oh, okay, but for the most part, it's clean. But like, I don't know, it's
Such
it just, and when you hear like rigged or or like something bought, you think, oh, okay, this happened like 40, 50, 60 years ago. It's
yeah,
like, oh, okay, you don't think, oh, 10 years ago, 5 years, what, this year. It's like, it's like okay, it's like okay, this is something that you know, this is something that okay, we should have already cleaned up by now, kind of thing. Like this is like that's literally it's literally like how I think of like when I think soccer. It's like oh okay, FIFA's a mafia. Oh, allegedly, I don't want to get sued. You know, FIFA's a mafia, but it's like okay, you think oh like way back to like the '80s when you know things were like super shady, right? It's like oh okay, bro, but you wouldn't think like oh okay nowadays it's like that. So it's like I don't know. It kind of makes you lose faith of the integrity of the sport.
Yeah, sadly, man. It's sad but true. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's like the only thing that can really restore my faith is if we see specifically Indiana versus Minnesota in the finals.
Let's go. We
Two
need
small market teams.
that'll be man. What a kick to the face, right? To the whole league and everyone behind this BS. Now, bro, I want to touch on something you mentioned about like when you're younger, you hear all these things, you never believe it. I'm glad you brought that up because yeah, all these the Luka trade and all the firings of Denver, it brings me back to being that kid when adults would be around me and they would be like, hey, this is rigged, all of this about money, like people would tell me things, and obviously as a kid, as a big sports fan, right, when you're so young, you don't want to hear that. But now I feel that we're older, you have more of an open mind, I guess, or a different perspective. And when you're a kid like that, you kind of block it off. You're like, what are you talking about? That can never happen. So it's just like it's sad for like all the kids and all of us, all like basketball lovers, sports lovers, when we're at this point now where it's like, damn, like what really is legit, in these leagues. So yeah, I just had to say that out there because for like the kid in us, it's like it is sad, honestly. But
Yeah, and I don't know. It's like I feel like basketball isn't the only sport. You know,
no, for sure,
there's other sports as well. You know, soccer is known for it, and it's like, football I think has it too. You know, I think baseball. We talk about it every now and then. Like sometimes baseball has it too. So it's like,
for sure.
damn, bro. It's like
Baseball, you
you
get
almost
beat apparently, and it's okay. You're still the champion in baseball
yeah,
and in
bro.
football too. I mean, the Astros, the Patriots, not to call out teams or be personal, but I mean, the hell, man. Like you said, it's in all leagues, bro. It sucks.
Yeah, bro. It does sucks, and it does suck because like you know a lot of us fans like we make this like this is like some of us is it's like a livelihood. Some people it's like a dying passion.
Literally,
It's like we'll literally freaking well, my bad. I don't know if I could curse here.
yeah,
Like
no,
we'll literally go
you're good. You're good. You're good.
we'll literally go like we'll literally go up to bat and like die on the mountain for like our favorite teams or players, and it's like so if you're gonna tell me this is all like scripted, it's like oh damn. I guess it's just yeah. I guess I should just I don't know. I don't know what I should do.
Because it's like you said, like a lot of us are like freaking die hard, and I'm how I am with my teams. Like, bro, I'll do anything to like I don't know, watch my team, root for my team. Uh, like this kind of random, super random, but it's an example I could give. So I'm the type of person for some reason, specifically if it's raining. I know a lot of people are like this, but like me, right? I don't like being in the rain because I'm scared that it'll get me sick. I'm one of those people. With that said, there's been the only times I stay in the rain and don't even move an inch. It's been at Dolphin games. It's been at football games. So yeah, that's just an example I thought of. But yeah, I'm one of those diehard fans with my team. So not like from that perspective, it makes it even more sad for me. Because
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, bro, and it's like and it's tough because like you know we don't want to believe that, but it's like but like when you hear like you know some of the like some like when you hear like oh like an athlete takes PEDs, it's like it almost becomes like or no let me give you this example like when I really started believing in like possible conspiracies. Like when I started watching this show called Playmakers. Am I allowed to do these free promotions?
You know, you're good. You're good.
Okay, bet. So I was watching this show called Playmakers, and it was basically like a drama slash like sports series, and it was actually aired on ESPN, and it's like they would show the athletes taking like the shots to like numb the pain. They would show them taking painkillers. They would show them taking steroids, smoking crack, like partying, and all this other crazy stuff. So it's like, but then when I started seeing like, oh, they took steroids, it's like, yeah, that seems you don't want to admit it, but it's like, yeah, that's kind of believable. It's like,
Sucks.
I feel like, yeah, like because sometimes you'll see an athlete in the off season, you're like, oh yeah, he gained so much muscle. It's like in 3 months you gained that much. It's like,
Yeah.
what are the odds?
It's like, come on, you're a human being, you're not a machine, right?
Yeah,
Like, don't get me wrong, they work out like animals. Like, don't get me wrong, but yeah, that's
no,
a
of
great
course.
example that you brought
Like,
up.
yeah, like even if you do take it, you still gotta work out like a machine. But it's like yeah, you still gotta do it. I don't know, bro.
That's crazy. Sorry, this is random, and obviously, it's not the main topic, right, of what we're recording. Um, but it goes back. Like you mentioned, baseball, right? We talked about them. A lot of times, different conspiracies and things. That might have happened over the years. And one of them, like, look, you're talking about PEDs, right? With athletes and steroids. Okay, baseball is like that's ridiculous. Like how many times, right, over the years, like there's a time, right, known as the steroid era, right? Where like Sammy Sosa and Mark McGuire, right, the headliners of that. And a lot of people actually believe that the MLB was encouraging these guys at the time because at that time there it was like some of the lowest ratings ever for Major League Baseball. And all of a sudden they had that season where Sammy Sosa and Mark McGuire were like going for the home run crown. They each had 60 something home runs, and everyone was like all of a sudden watching baseball again. And then randomly over the years, like, oh, A Rod, yeah, yeah, nah, he took steroids, and he they basically. I'm not advocating for steroids whatsoever. I hate all that stuff. But with that said, it's like, all right, so you're gonna use A Rod, right, as a scapegoat. And like I said, I'm not trying to defend A Rod's steroid use, but okay, you use A Rod, but when Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa were doing it, it's all good. Then there's other guys over the years even that a guy I'm a big fan of. He seems like a great guy, one of the most beloved baseball players ever, Big Papi, right? Not many people know this. He got caught for steroids at one point in his career, but somehow that's never brought up. But then A Rod forever, regardless of like, okay, obviously that was a huge mistake, the steroids, but take out the steroids and A Rod was an incredible player. But somehow anyone could ever think of is, oh, the steroids. So yeah, it's just interesting. What I'm trying to say, I guess, too, it's like there's different narratives in the media in these leagues that they like they don't care using one guy as a scapegoat, but like other guys, they try to protect them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Julian Edelman was suspended 4 games the year he won Super Bowl MVP for steroids.
Bro, that
So
you
I
brought
mean,
that up to me yesterday, I think, and I was like, wow, that's insane.
that's literally what kind of like made me believe like, oh, okay, maybe they don't take this as seriously as we think. Allegedly, we're not trying to get sued.
No, of course, but no, I'm glad you brought that one up too, because yeah, like I mentioned New England earlier, it's like other like, and it's not personal. I'm not trying like you can't go back in the past, but it's like, all right, it had the Flakegate, right? You had Spygate, or right, they're recording practices. Those are just two different instances, right? They had the what was the whole thing with the Raiders, the tuck rule, whatever the hell.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, all of a sudden, like that became a thing in New England too. Like, there's so much evidence and information of them cheating, and then it's like, nah, but it's all good. The greatest dynasty ever. We're never gonna strip anything away. Same thing with the Astros that I brought up earlier. It's like they had that whole freaking scandal knocking on the garbage can so the players know what pitch is coming. They win the World Series, it all comes out they cheated, and not Rob Manfred is like, yeah, it's all good. We're not stripping away the title. It's like, man, what? I'm. It's a bunch of BS. Man, I feel like I feel like all of us could talk about it for hours, because it's so damn frustrating.
Yeah, literally. Like I feel like there's so many conspiracies that I have that I don't even think we can like save it all for like one video. To be honest.
Not for sure. Yeah, if anything, we could even, bro. I think this would be cool in the future. We do like, let's say a whatever 3-part series or 4-part series, where
Yeah.
maybe on each episode of the series we focus on one specific league, right, for each, and we could kind of do a series like that. I feel like that'd be really cool, actually.
Nah, I feel you, bro.
But but yeah, bro. Is there anything else you want to like say regarding Malone, Luka, anything else that we covered on this section of the show today?
No, I think we got into it. I just kind of this is just kind of like one of those moments where like you just kind of come to the realization that maybe it's not as clean as you think. All those years of playing FIFA, 2K, Madden, just kind of like does it like what does all that mean now? It's like does it mean there was does it mean that like we're like our integrity, the integrity of the sport is still like is it still intact? I don't know. I'm still gonna watch the playoffs this year to see
For sure, me too. Yeah.
if maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong.
Okay.
Maybe some random team comes out of nowhere. Maybe OKC comes out of nowhere. You know, eh, it does suck because I was excited to see Luka and LeBron in the playoffs like play together, and I would have gone for them to go all the way, but it's like if the Heat don't make it, it's them because like it's kind of I kind of like I kind of felt like appreciative of like LeBron coming here, getting us our 2 chips, and it's like oh okay you did something for us, you know you're validated, but it's almost like I don't how am I supposed to feel now? I don't know. I'm not. It doesn't feel like oh this is real, like all this is real anymore. It's all who knows, man.
I think that's the perfect line. Like, it feels like what you just says. It's not real, whatever. That was like a perfect line. Bro, straight up. Like, I respect everything you said. I just gotta with the Lakers. I understand you. Obviously, I'm appreciated, bro, for LeBron forever. Like all the memories we have. But I can't. I still can't root for the Lakers. But like I said, I respect you obviously 1,000,000%, bro. Like that's super like classy of you. And like I said, I understand that. I just like, you know me. I don't know what it is. I'm just extra crazy. I don't know, but but like I said, bro, like that's super classy of you, obviously.
Man. Thank you,
Yeah,
bro.
no, of course, man. No, of course. Like I said, I just you know me. I don't know. I just got extra crazy. Like the heater, we're like the 9th or 10th seed right now, and I'm like, let's freaking go. I'm just like, I don't know. My team's there, bro. It's just like I just gotta be all in. I feel like that's all I could control at the end of the day. Putting out like that energy out there, like just. But yeah, man. Nah, this was awesome though. Nah, yeah, this like a jam packed sports episode. We have the recap of the college basketball like championship. We have this little NBA section. So nah, I hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks again to Jerry for coming on and joining us again. He had a double duty this week, I guess you could call it. Oh no, triple duty because we had the preview of the
Yeah.
championship game. But I'm hoping now, within the next couple of months, we could bring him on more to kind of keep track, right? 'Cause I feel like we should do a series on the conspiracy theories, but also maybe during the playoffs we could do some sort of like weekly check-in or maybe every other week where you come on and we kind of look at what's going on in the playoffs. If the Lakers and Celtics, are freaking sweeping everyone and going crazy, I feel like that'll be fun to track. You know what I'm saying? But you, bro, thanks again though, and yeah, guys, make sure to keep up with us on Instagram and TikTok at the flame_es. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning into this sports filled episode. Once again, shout out to my boy Jerry. It was a great time getting to have him on the podcast. For 3 different segments this week. We had him for the preview of the national championship on Monday. And then, of course, on this episode, he joined us to recap that national championship game and to give us a lot of great information on, his thoughts, of course, on the Michael Malone and Calvin Booth firing, but also a lot of great information on a couple, conspiracy type of things that he brought up here on the podcast. And yeah, guys, with all that said, once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Shout out to Jerry again. Make sure to subscribe to us, everyone, please, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening. Share with someone you think would be interested in hearing about any of this basketball talk that we covered on today's show. And yeah, guys, make sure to stay tuned as well for the White Lotus Season 3 finale recap coming this weekend. Follow us on social media, on Instagram and TikTok at @theflame_ES. Until next time, everyone, take care.